Hello, welcome back. I'm Lori Williams, and today is the final third part, of the three-part series on self-awareness. And so to wrap it up today, we're going to be talking about mental awareness. So what I mean by mental awareness is just like being aware of the thoughts that you're having. I actually read something, I believe I said this in another video, but that it actually takes a minute and a half, 90 seconds, for an emotion to completely go through your body, like through your nervous system. And then after that, it takes a thought to hold on to it. So all of our emotions don't really sit with us, we don't attach to them until we have the thoughts, the mental part of it, that back them up and that tether them to us. So if you're working on your mental awareness, the best way to do that is to do that while you're feeling emotions. While you're feeling the emotions and just letting those emotions go through you. The mental awareness is, okay, this is what I'm feeling. So, I mean, obviously the emotional awareness comes into this as well. This is what I'm feeling. This is the emotion that I'm feeling. It might even be a physical response as well. And then, okay, well, what am I thinking about this? Am I getting into a panic mode? Am I getting into to worry mode? And I think anxiety is probably the best way to describe exactly what I'm talking about. So when I had really bad anxiety, I never stopped to think about how I was feeling, what emotions I was feeling, what physical things I was feeling, and what mentally was going on until I started healing myself. And then I started to realize that like the first two physical things that I would have was be sweaty palms and heart palpitations. So as soon as I started having those, I would start getting like a nervousness, or I can't really say I was scared, but definitely a nervousness. So I was feeling the emotion of feeling nervous. And then my thoughts would go of like, oh my God, it's happening again. I'm having another panic attack and I can't breathe. And I'm like, everything is spinning. And it was my thoughts that were actually prolonging that. When I was learning to heal myself from anxiety, I learned to be able to sit with the sweaty palms and the heart palpitations and being okay, like, what is this telling me? What does this mean? Just letting it move through me, making sure I'm concentrating on my breath and not letting any fear-based thoughts form. Because it's the thoughts that allow us to hold on to the other parts, the physical part and the emotional part. And we can keep this going and convince ourselves that this is our truth, this is our reality. And it very much is our reality. And I'm not sitting here like trying to negate that what you're going through isn't real. It 100% is, because you've convinced in your mind that it is. The truth of it is we can change our reality by changing our mind and being aware of the thoughts that you're having. If you're a very negative person or a very pessimistic person, start paying attention to those thoughts and being able to change those into something that feels better for you becomes like a superpower. And you'll start to realize that as soon as you start to look at your thoughts in a different way, in something that feels better for you, the emotions will start to change. Your outside world starts to change. Like the truth of it is that I used to tell myself, and I was honestly convinced that this is my reality, that I hated people. But it wasn't actually that I hated people, and it wasn't until I started healing myself that I realized I didn't hate people. I blamed people for my panic attacks because it typically happened when I was in groups of people, right? So it was like, I can't people today. And it was always like, I hate people because they caused something in me that I couldn't control. The truth is, I absolutely love people. Absolutely love people. I love meeting new people. I love connecting. I love people because now I've realized that it was always me that should have been in control of that. Rather than blaming my outside, I needed to take control on the inside of what was going on. They say that your outside world is like a clear picture of what your inside world is. And I mean, until you start healing yourself, you don't realize exactly how true that is. So pay attention to your thoughts. I always tell my clients to give themselves 3 days. And over those 3 days, Give yourself 20 minutes, half hour, even if you can only do it for 5 minutes, anything is better than nothing. And just sit and observe the thoughts as they come through. You can even write them down in a journal if you want to. And just write them down and don't give them any meaning. Like if you have the word, like even if it's a bad word, like you're writing like DIE and stuff like that, like don't even give it any power. Just let it come out. Just let whatever it is, just let it come out. And just observe your thoughts. And you're going to realize very quickly over those 3 days that the predominant thoughts are either healthy and on the more positive side, or maybe, a little bit unhealthy and kind of neutral, or completely unhealthy and toxic to you and very pessimistic and very negative. Once you start realizing your predominant thoughts and where they are on that scale kind of thing of like, are they kind of neutral thoughts? Are they negative thoughts? Are they positive thoughts? Once you start realizing, I'm going to talk about like positive thoughts and even neutral here, we can talk about this as well. In order to get yourself into more positive thoughts, for every negative thought that you do, and you do this for a week, so you do 3 days of just being aware of the thoughts without judgment. Afterwards, you don't change, don't fight them. Don't be like, oh, don't have that thought, or oh my God, you're so stupid, why you're thinking those thoughts. Like, don't beat yourself up for having a negative thought. But for the next week, after you've observed your thoughts for 3 days, for the next week, I want you, for every time you recognize that you have either a neutral thought or a negative thought, you're going to say 3 things that are positive. So if you're like, oh my God, it's such a crappy day out today, it's like, okay, but you know what? The leaves are coming back on the trees, and the trees are starting to look a very beautiful color of green, and flowers are starting to bloom. And, you can find 3 good things about the day, even if it's like the crappiest day out in the world, right? So you got to come up with 3 good things. Within a week, it's incredible. It's like your brain realizes it's actually harder for you to be negative, because when you're negative, you have to work harder to become positive. So it's almost like something shifts in your brain within like 3 weeks, and you'll notice it after a week, or you should notice it after a week. But within 3 weeks, you're going to notice that like it's just, even though a negative thought might still be there, your second thought is going to be like more, it's going to counterbalance that negative thought, and it's going to happen more naturally. Like I started doing this 9 years ago, and I don't really have to do it so much anymore, because now if I have a negative thought, it doesn't mean that I don't have negative thoughts. I do. But when I do, it's like, bam, it's like part of my brain says a negative thought, and the other part of the brain just like, but look at this and look at this and look at this. And it's just so natural now that the negative thought doesn't even have a chance of, rooting within my conscious mind or my subconscious mind. It's just like, there's no chance that it's going to stick around, because I've done the work of being able to look on the more positive side. And I don't think, for me personally, it's never been about getting rid of the negative thoughts, because we're very complex beings. Us human beings have very complex beings. I let the first thought be whatever it is. Like, to me, that's my ego mind. Whatever that first thought is, even if it's bitchy, if it's negative, whatever it is. But the second thought to me is what matters. That second thought, that second thing that I say that's going to counterbalance that the first thought, that's my true self. That's my true thinking. And I fought myself a lot. And that's not the answer. The answer is not to fight yourself into submission of thinking better thoughts. That's not the point. The point of this is to be more positive. But does that mean that you have to take away the negative? Absolutely not. If I have 1 negative thought and 3 positive thoughts automatically come in now, that's like a 3-to-1. That's like I'm 75% positive. I'll take that. That's a win for me. Maybe the day will come when I don't have that negative thought anymore. But you know what? Right now, I've integrated it as part of like, okay, that's cool. That's the ego. The ego mind always wants to have the first say. It always wants to have like that first word. I'll let it do whatever it wants, and within reason, I'll let it think it's winning. But to me, it's the second thought of when, like, the first thought makes me aware of my thought process. It's the second thought that I have that is the important one. And I think that took a lot of pressure off of me of looking and expecting myself to be perfect with this, because I'm not, and I don't think you should have to be. And I've worked with people who completely can get rid of their negative thoughts and they only think positive, and that's great for them, but that wasn't my story. And maybe it never is, maybe it's never meant to be. And I'm okay with where I am now, because like I said, I don't expect to be 100% positive. I don't need to be. Those first thoughts that come into my mind, even if they are negative, they don't stick. Like, I could not tell you what kind of negative thoughts I've had so far today. I could not tell you. I could tell you the positive thoughts, but I could not tell you the negative thoughts. They've just, like, they've come in and they've gone out. I don't have any attachment to them. And I think that's the point of it. It's not to fight it, but it's to practice detachment with it and just let it flow through you. It's the positive thoughts that you want to stay. So that is about mental awareness. That's the gist of mental awareness. I mean, I could talk about this stuff all day. All three of these parts, the physical awareness, the emotional awareness, and obviously today the mental awareness, all of those bring into, they're all like individual parts of the entire self. And all of those parts are things that you need to understand self-awareness. And as someone who has been the negative person, who's been the person that has struggled with mental health issues, this has been my saving grace, and that's why I want to share this with you. The way I have been able to be self-aware for the last 9 years, I've been very self-aware, and it's life-changing. It's absolutely life-changing. I don't struggle mentally anymore. I don't struggle emotionally anymore. I can, like I said, I practice detachment. It's like, even if an emotion or a thought comes in of happiness, it doesn't stick with me unless I decide, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to let that stick. I'm going to let that stay with me. Even the good ones, I question them. Always. I never let anything stick without my awareness of it. And I think that's what being self-aware is all about. I hope that this 3-part series has been helpful for you in gaining some self-awareness. Give yourself time. Like I said, I've been at this for 9 years. And I'm still working at it. I'm a work in progress constantly. The time's going to pass anyway. Your life is passing by anyway. Do what you can today, with what you know, with where you are, and try to make yourself a little bit better today than you were yesterday. To me, that's kind of the whole point. I hope you've enjoyed this series, and I'll see you back here next time. Until then, take care. Bye for now.